Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Later in the show, our very own liberal Sherpa, Kathy Aroo, will join us to explain why Americans are suddenly banned from wearing Asian clothes. Cultural appropriation. Also, the Boy Scouts no longer exist. They're going gender neutral because, of course, they are. Mark Stein is no liberal Sherpa, but he is bewildered by that and ready to tell us what it means. Two bizarre but telling stories about our future here in America, both ahead. But first, you may have heard about a new battle between Congress and the Department of Justice. A group of congressional Republicans is demanding that the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein release a series of documents related to the Russia investigation. They say they plan to impeach Rosenstein if he doesn't turn over the information. So far, Rosenstein has defiantly refused to do that. Now, before you tune this out as yet another partisan arcane debate, the kind that Washington specializes in, here are the details, because it's not that. There's a lot at stake here, far beyond the short-term political advantage of either party. The Russia investigation, as you know, has completely dominated the business of government since the day Trump took office. It's all anyone in Washington can talk or think about. Never mind the potential wars on the horizon in Asia or the Middle East, or the fact our own economy and culture are changing faster than anyone can understand or digest. In D.C., only the Mueller investigation matters. So you may wonder, what is the Mueller investigation? What is it about? What exactly is Mueller investigating? Turns out almost nobody knows, except Rod Rosenstein. He knows, but he won't tell Congress. Last summer, Rosenstein wrote a memo detailing the scope of the independent counsel investigation. Key portions of that memo remain hidden from view. Congress would like to see them and has every right to see them. Our Constitution requires our elected representatives to supervise the Department of Justice. Why is that? Well, so that bureaucrats with massive law enforcement and surveillance powers remain accountable to voters. We give them guns, let them arrest us, send us to prison, allow them to break into our private email accounts, tap our phones. They have a lot of power. In return, they promise not to misuse that power. And if there's any question about their honesty, we get to check. That's what transparency is. Government bureaucrats hate transparency. They'd rather do their work in secret. Secrecy is the shield that protects them from our scrutiny. And not just in this case. Consider the House Intelligence Committee investigation into Russian collusion. It was just completed. It took a year to complete. The final report ran to 253 pages. Yet the rest of us couldn't really read it because key facts were missing. Just how many Trump associates did the Obama administration spy on during the 2016 campaign? It would be nice to know that. Sorry, it's redacted. Is there any actual proof that the Russian government directed hacking of the DNC and John Podesta's Gmail account? Well, if there is, that's been redacted too. Or how about this? The report says that the FBI agents who interviewed Mike Flynn didn't believe he was lying. But wait. Mike Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to those agents, and his life was destroyed as the result. He just sold his house to raise money for his legal defense. So what's going on here? Well, we don't know. That information was redacted. Why were all these redactions made? We don't even know that. We asked, no one would tell us. And then there's the FISA application to spy on Trump campaign aide Carter Page. That hasn't been released either, even though we now have ample reason to believe the application may have been fundamentally illegitimate, based heavily on discredited partisan hearsay, the Steele dossier. Jim Comey denies this, of course. He's denied it repeatedly on his book tour. Just the other day, he noted, smiling faintly as he said it, that there's no way to check, really, because it's classified. The joke is on us, except it's not funny. Almost nobody trusts the government anymore, and that's one subject that both sides can agree on. There's only one way to fix that: sunlight. Stop hiding, stop lying, tell us what's really going on. Rod Rosenstein has no intention of doing any of that. In an interview today at the Newseum, Rosenstein compared demands for greater transparency from Congress to a mafia shakedown. Watch.
There have been people who have been making threats privately and publicly against me for quite some time, and I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted. We're going to do what's required by the rule of law, and any kind of threats that anybody makes are not going to affect the way we do our job.
Little victim. Extorted? How about accountable? Nobody elected Rod Rosenstein to anything or any of these people. They work for us, supposedly on our behalf. When they won't explain what they're doing or why they're doing it, it is a sure sign, always and everywhere, that they have begun to work against us. That's what it means. Joe DeGenova is a former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, and he joins us now. It's hard to believe that just happened, that Rod Rosenstein, about whom I was ambivalent until today, would get out there and attack the Congress, which has constitutional oversight over his department, as mafia members, in effect, for asking for what the Constitution demands they have, which is oversight.
The Deputy Attorney General today disqualified himself from continued service in the Department of Justice. Jeff Sessions now has an absolute responsibility to call him into his office, berate him for saying that constitutional oversight is extortion. That statement by a constitutional officer like Rod Rosenstein is disgraceful. It's an embarrassment to the department, but it is of a pattern of what Mr. Rosenstein has done there since he arrived. He is a careerist. He believes that the department can do no wrong and that he is going to resist calls for more information. When you realize that he appointed a special counsel, Robert Mueller, someone that he's very close to and who was very close to James Comey, to investigate no crime and put this country through 15 going on 16 months of interruption of a new president, that tells you something about Rod Rosenstein. He is resisting all of this because he created the original sin, an investigation of no crime.
I'm just confused, though. I mean, Rod Rosenstein has a gun. He has the power to arrest you or me. Lying to him is a felony. He has a lot of power. Where does he think that power comes from, if not from the Congress and the voters who elected those members of Congress?
When you are as arrogant and as deep in the belief that you have been given a duty to do whatever you think is right for the country, and when you hate the President of the United States, as I am now convinced Mr. Rosenstein does, then you believe you can do anything. And when the Attorney General...
Just because God made you all powerful or something? Like, do they not understand where the power comes from? Voters. That's the only place it comes from.
He does not understand it, because as a careerist and someone who has never left government for a minute to speak of any note, government is all he knows. And for him, the most important thing is the next job. And I can assure you the one thing he doesn't want to happen is to be held in contempt or to be impeached, because he believes himself to be something very, very special, an unaccountable bureaucrat.
So the DOJ, and there are some great people who work there, and
yes,
I know some of them,
yes.
And I spoke to one of them today and said, why not, why doesn't the Congress, why doesn't the public have a right to know what this is about? And this person said, well, it's an ongoing investigation. And I guess my argument would be the public's need to know what this is about supersedes that. But tell me your view.
The answer is, it's not an ongoing investigation. There is no crime. They've already conceded that the president is not a target. They're asking those 49 questions that they want to ask the president, and maybe even with a grand jury subpoena, because they want to impeach the president. This has nothing to do with a criminal investigation. Donald Trump has done nothing wrong. He's conspired with no one. The reason they are threatening a subpoena, well, go ahead, please issue the subpoena, because it will be an unconstitutional subpoena, an illegal subpoena, because there is no authority under federal law to issue a subpoena to a president of the United States to get testimony from him so it can be used in an impeachment proceeding. That use of the grand jury is illegal, absolutely illegal.
This may be a debate that continues. I have the feeling. Joe DeGenova, thank you for that perspective. I appreciate it. Chris Hahn joins us now. He's a lawyer and a radio show host. Good to see you, Chris. So let's strip the politics out of this and take Trump and even Mueller and Rosenstein, for that matter, and all the kind of partisan drama surrounding this story, and ask a really simple question. Does the public have a right to know if its government is spying on it, and if so, why? And the details of investigations that are the center of everyone's concern. Why is the left so all of a sudden anxious to defend government secrecy?
I don't think anybody's defending government secrecy. I think what they're defending is a Congress that is threatening to impeach somebody. That's what he was calling extortion. We've had these battles between the Justice Department and the Congress in the past over what Congress should and should not be privy to. Most of the reasons why they would not give Congress access to it is for some national security reason and for fearing that Congress may leak that information. As we know, Mark Meadows and the Freedom Conference are want to do here.
Now you've moved into comedy. So you're telling me the executive branch of government, which leaked transcripts of the president's conversations with foreign leaders, is concerned that Congress might be leaking. Pardon me. for the hilarity break. That's ridiculous. Let me just say, if there's a national security concern that is preventing the release of information that I think I have a right to see, what would that be? What exactly is that concern? Let's be specific.
Look, Congress leaked this memo before they had time to spell check it and edit it. So let's be very clear here. They leak like a sieve.
There's tons of,
and that's probably part of the reason why national security information.
Okay, but what would be the national... So hold on. Liberals always used to say, don't lie to me about the national security concerns. That's merely a shield for your own corruption. It was liberals who led that fight for openness, for the Sunshine Laws, as you know. And now they're saying, shut up, disloyal American. You have no right to know that because of national security. So I'm just going to ask the obvious question. What would be the national security concern that would prevent me from knowing, for example, what exactly happened with Mike Flynn?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know, but you have such faith in the government that you don't think we should know.
Mike Flynn pled guilty to a lesser crime. I wonder what the higher crime was.
Well, how about this?
That's what I would really like to
and
know,
I do
someday
too.
we'll know that.
There's a lot.
So let's be very clear. He pled guilty to the lesser crime, and hold on.
And everyone who pleads guilty is guilty. This is the new liberal position. Have you called Barry Scheck and told him that? Because he might be surprised.
I don't think a person with that kind of esteem would plead guilty for no reason.
So this is a sincere question. I'm not here to defend Flynn or anybody other than the right of Americans to know what their government is doing. So in the House Intel Committee report, which just came out, it says that the FBI agents who interviewed Flynn did not detect deception in their interview. My understanding is he pled to a felony which stemmed from lying to those very agents. So my question would be, what is that about? I mean, I don't know. I'm open-minded. That information's redacted. On the basis of what concern would that be redacted? Why shouldn't I know that?
Look, it's a partisan report that you're citing right there.
But why shouldn't I know?
There's very little fact to that report. I give very little credence to it. And the American people, by the way, the American people will give no credence to it either, and that's why they'll be in the minority come January, and we'll have a real intelligence committee.
Now you're making it dumb and partisan. Let's get back to the principle, which is, why don't I, as an American who has increasingly lost faith in both parties and in my government, have a right to assess what the government is doing in my name and with my tax dollars? I thought isn't that sort of a basic request of citizenship?
Tucker, you absolutely do have a right.
Oh, I do. So why can't I exercise it?
You have a right, but what he called extortion was their threat to impeach them. Let me tell you something. Try to impeach them. The President of the United States should try to fire him. He should try to fire Mueller if he thinks that's what's going on. They don't have the guts or the courage to do it.
Okay. You're, again, trying to bring it into partisan territory. I am asking a very simple question, which is, why doesn't the Congress of the United States, which has constitutional oversight over the DOJ and over this Rosenstein guy, why don't they have a right to see the documents unredacted? That's the core question, not impeachment. Oh, they do, but they're not getting them. So now they're frustrated and they're threatening the guy.
If they feel that the DOJ is not providing them documents, there is a process by which they can vote as an entire Congress to get those documents. And if they feel they are entitled to those documents, they should go through that process.
But hold on.
Threaten to impeach a
so they're going through the wrong process.
Law enforcement official who served this country well.
So tell me really quickly why I can't see and settle the partisan debate forever the application to spy on American citizen Carter Page. Comey says, oh, the Steele dossier was not central. Others who have seen it believe it was. Why can't I see it? Why shouldn't I know that as an American, as a journalist?
Well, Congress can vote to give you access to it, and so can the president. And if they wanted you to see it, you'd see it.
Okay, but I don't care what they want.
There's a reason why the president doesn't want you to see it. I don't know what that is.
I want to know what he should, and his lawyers are telling him not to, and he's wrong to follow their advice.
Yeah,
but the point is, what's the actual justification? Why shouldn't I see that?
Look, they're saying national security reasons, and Tucker, you know, I don't like that answer either.
It's a lie.
And that's why we have a Congress.
It's a lie.
That's why we have a
so
Congress.
Why don't you, as a liberal, join me in arguing for openness? We don't need to vote on anything. Why don't we just join voices here and say, as Americans, we have a right to know? But you don't want to do that because it's not in your partisan advantage.
No. Look, I am calling on Congress right now to vote to let you see everything. Go ahead, Congress, vote on it. And if there's a national security reason, they'll figure that out, too.
Keep going. Chris, thank you. Michael Caputo was an advisor to Donald Trump's presidential campaign. He joins us now. Mr. Booth, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me.
So you've been interviewed by the investigation, the Mueller investigation, is that correct?
Yes, today at noon I spent 3 hours with investigators in the special counsel's office.
What did you learn?
I learned they're still looking at Russian collusion. They're still looking for it. While I wouldn't be asked about charges of obstruction or asked about financial crimes, I was there during the time when they believed that Russian collusion was initiated. That would be the only thing that they would ask me about. That certainly is the only thing we talked about.
That's not the only thing you talked about.
No, that is the only thing we talked about. In my mind, if anybody thinks that Russian collusion is off the table, they haven't visited with the Mueller team.
Was there Russian collusion?
Of course not. I mean, I think that they're looking down the avenues of all the evidence that they're putting together. I'll tell you, they know more about the Trump campaign than anybody that worked there, and they know more about what I did in 2016 than I do myself.
Well, I hope so.
They really do.
They spent a lot of money and a lot of time looking into it.
They have.
So what are they looking at specifically? Like, what did you learn? Where do they think the collusion took place?
I don't really want to interfere with the investigation. I was warned about that.
Well, they warned you not to talk about it.
Well, they warned me to be careful about interfering with
exercising your freedom of speech.
Well,
they're not for that, is that right?
I get that, but my attorneys...
I get that. It's the center of our country.
I get that, but I'm just saying my attorneys also asked me to be careful about this, but I can tell you they're looking
So they're threatening and intimidating you, basically, it sounds like.
I'm not going to be friending them on Facebook today, if that's what you're asking. I don't find them to be very friendly people.
What's it like to live in a country where, having not been charged or convicted of any crime, a prosecutor can threaten you to shut up in public?
It's not nice, but I can tell you that it's nothing compared to the $125,000 in legal bills that I've stacked up for nothing. It's nothing compared to the death threats that my family and I are getting. It's nothing compared to the piece of a sniper rifle that came in the mail to my wife last month. It's nothing compared to the way that they're trashing my family. What's happening to me and my family is happening to many other people in this investigation, and I'm just a witness. I can't imagine if somebody's a subject or a target what they're going to go through. But I can tell you this.
Wait, can I just back up for one
Sure.
sec? Since you just spoke to the investigators today, when they suggested, in the way that the mafia suggests, maybe you shouldn't do that. What do you think the penalty would be if you ignored that suggestion?
I don't think there would be any penalty, but I think I might be called back for a little visit. And every time I come to Washington for this bogus investigation, whether it's the Senate, the House, or whatever, I get to pay another $20, $25 grand.
So they just bankrupt you. That's no big deal.
Not just me. I think other people too. I mean, a tin cup isn't a good look, but I've had to open a GoFundMe page. I mean, I certainly didn't sign up for this when I went to work for the Trump campaign, and I will never, ever work on another Republican campaign for as long as I live. I mean, and I think that's part of this, Tucker. I think this is a punishment strategy. I think they want to destroy the president. They want to destroy his family. They want to destroy his businesses. They want to destroy his friends so that no billionaire in, let's say, 15 years wakes up and tells his wife, you know what, the country's broken and only I can fix it. His wife will say, are you crazy? Did you see what happened to Donald Trump and everybody around him? So that's what this is about.
So they've so intimidated you, and again, they're not charging you with anything. There's no allegation that you committed a crime. But they've so intimidated you that you can't talk about your conversation on this show right now, and you're retiring from campaign politics forever.
I'm never going to work on a Republican campaign again unless somebody legally indemnifies me. Clearly, these lawsuits after the fact are the new Democratic strategy. When you lose, you still win. I don't think anybody should work on a Republican campaign again unless they're legally indemnified. I think if you do, you're crazy. My legal fees are going to be at least $125,000. That's more than I make in a year. That's more than where I live in East Aurora, New York. That's more than most people in my town make. And I don't know how we're going to pay that off, me and my family. But that's Washington money. That's New York money.
Well, it's disgusting.
But I can tell you this, Tucker.
We're almost out of time.
They're looking at WikiLeaks. They're looking at Guccifer. They're looking at DC leaks. Everything that you see in the media that's been leaked out there, that's certainly what they're looking at. And I think they're pretty focused on this.
It's unbelievable. Michael, thank you.